Alive. Bam, we're live. Speaking of being alive. When your parents are alive, you might wish they behave different. When they're dead, you will wish you behave different. Pretend your parents are dead.
It's a pretty good one.
Right? Right? Don't snap at your parents. It's awesome. Whenever my kids act like jackasses to me, or even if I'm acting like the jackass and they like react like negative to me, like, like, I mean, they're 5 and 7, but like push me or like, do a temper tantrum. I'm like, hey, dude, remember, you love me more than anything in the world. Look past I always just guilt them like that. Look past my shortcomings. Look past my shortcomings. I'm the greatest thing in your life.
Your kids do the skateboarding stuff, huh?
Say it again.
Your kids do the skateboarding stuff, huh?
Yeah, the big three are skateboarding, jiu-jitsu, and tennis. And it's kind of like try to get something in, like it's in my mind to get those things in every single day, some aspect of that,
Yeah.
And in I'd say 50% of the time I'm successful. So 4 days a week there's some, skateboarding, 4 days a week there's some jiu-jitsu, 4 days a week there's some tennis.
Yeah.
And then every day a little portion of schooling, like 7 days a week. But it could be just, 20 minutes. And then hyper focused on math and reading and writing.
They homeschooled or public?
Yeah, homeschooled.
Homeschooled.
Well, it's kind of funny because so they're actually in a public school program, but we kind of took advantage of the fact that they don't have to because of the so-called pandemic, they didn't have to go to school.
Yeah.
And so we've never taken them to school. We don't do any of the Zoom stuff. They send some work home, but like every quarter we just take them to the school and the teacher talks to them. And the teacher always says, I mean, they're so young. The teacher always says, wow, they have no peer. And we do Kumon. Do you know Kumon? A Japanese program. There's like 30,000 Kumon centers around the globe, invented in the 50s. It's basically CrossFit math and CrossFit reading. This guy invented it in the 50s. You basically do these worksheets and they're timed. And you do like 10 to 20 minutes every day. And it goes all the way up to calculus and all the way up to diagramming sentences. And it's pretty cool.
I'm super dyslexic, so I stayed away from school as much as I could.
Yeah, I don't blame you. You're doing good.
Yeah, trying.
Mr. Jared Halbert?
Yeah.
Jared Halbert. 7 times you've won the tactical games.
Yeah, I think it's 7 or 8.
I knew 8. I'd be wrong. I knew I'd be wrong if I tried.
I think it might be 9 now. I don't know. I think it's 9.
Yeah. How many have there been?
Let's see. There's probably been about 10 a year for the last 2.5 years. So there's probably been 20 something.
How many have you gone to?
12.
And you won. Oh, so so have you? There's a time when a guy beat you.
Yeah, there was. I didn't get first 3 times.
Disgusting. Is that your first 3 times?
No, I won the first 2. And then, actually he turned into a pretty good friend of mine. I'm
sorry to hear that.
He beat me. He beat me 3 times in a row. And then I got a little bit better and started beating him after that. So,
what's his name?
Anton.
Yep. Hey, is there something that you changed in your training to overcome him?
Yeah, I started running a lot more. That was about it.
So it was in the physical component where he was beating you, not in the shooting component?
Well, so when I first started, I'd been doing CrossFit for like 5 or 6 years, and I was the only one that was competing that was using CrossFit. Because I'm not good at CrossFit at all, but I was significantly stronger than everybody else, and they were mainly runners, I guess. So I would usually do really well on like 3 or 4 of the events, and then get beat pretty bad on the runs. And he was when he showed up, he was decently strong and he could run. So that's why I had to fill that gap and get better at running.
How tall are you?
6'1".
Okay. In some of the pictures, you look like a giant. Like in the pictures when you're next to Tim Burke.
Yeah. Well, Tim's about 5'5", 5'6".
Okay. Well, that makes sense then.
He might be 5'7". I don't know. He's like an average CrossFitter size, I think. So right in there.
Jared, I apologize for the presupposition I'm about to insert in this question, but it's partially for comedic sake, but I am very curious about the answer. What is there ever a time that being hooked up to the city sewage is worse than having a septic? Is a septic ever better?
No.
I know. No, good. Okay, so that's a fair presupposition.
Yeah. It's only an option when there is no other options.
Right.
Yeah. But I'm trying to think. I mean,
is there a good septic system? Is there a septic system? It's like, I've lived here 10 years and never had a problem.
Yeah. Most of them, you don't have problems for like 7, 10 years right in there. Normally about 7 to 10 years is when you start having your first issues. And there's some that are better than others, but ideally you have a gravity fed septic system with a leach field.
So a gravity septic is when all the components from the guy who's shitting his ass to the toilet to all the piping is higher.
Exactly.
Than and does it have to be significantly higher or an angle, or is just even a little bit higher is good?
Even a little bit higher is good.
Have you ever seen it where it's below, the shitter's below the septic? That can't even be, right? You have seen that?
You have to install a grinder pump and pump it up to the septic tank. And then you have
a grinder pump for your deuces.
And then it goes to it's usually a 3-chamber tank. And then you pump it from the 3rd chamber out to the field. So
all of a sudden your septic's like a cow's stomach.
Yeah.
Hey, why not have a grinder? Why not have a grinder? Even if you have it installed properly, if you're higher, just to kind of expedite the decomposition and the leaching out into the field. And now I'm really in uncharted territory, by the way.
Yeah. It's not necessary. It's
overkill. Just totally ridiculous.
Yeah. I never did it. So I started a septic company because I had an irrigation company, which is clean water. And I made really sure really sure that I had I was at least 7 to 10 employees away from having to touch the septic water. But when the water's in the last chamber, there's 2 chamber tanks and there's 3 chamber tanks, and then there's some different kinds of systems. But when it's in the final chamber, it's actually relatively sanitary. I mean, it doesn't smell good and it doesn't look good, but some people say you can drink it and you would be fine. But I'm not gonna test that.
You just take a bucket of that, and do you know what a Berkey is?
No.
Oh, it's a water filter. I wish one of my guys on the back end. I was gonna say, you just take the water from the last septic and just run it through the Berkey, and you're good to go. The Berkey claims it can clean anything. Hey, so what is the absolute by the way, this is not planned at all. I just love this is just fascinating to me. So I had a septic at my house.
Yeah.
And I'm the last house before it's just all country. So I was the last house that could get hooked up to city water, which I didn't do because I have a well, but I did choose. I paid the money and hooked up to the sewage.
Yep.
And that was and we've never had any problems. But so that was smart that I did that, right? Keep the well to water the 100 fruit trees for free, but during the California's worst droughts, and I have just all the water I could possibly imagine.
Yeah, that's definitely a way to go.
And then give my shit to the city. What's a absolute no to put in the toilet if you have a septic?
Feminine products, and then a lot of people mostly get in trouble by putting stuff in their disposal, like fruits, because then the fruit seeds get out into the septic field, and seeds don't decompose in the holding tanks. So then they push out into the field, and then they clog up the holes in the pipe or the drip tubing. And
wow,
that's what gets most people is the seeds from fruits.
Wow, fucking brilliant! Wow.
Yeah. So
how come someone hasn't cracked the code on feminine products? Like why don't we you and I should put our heads together after the show, and this tampon can be flushed anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that you can be really successful at in business, and that's just one thing I don't give a shit about.
No. Why isn't? Because they have wipes, right, that you can flush.
Yeah,
the ones you wipe your kids' ass with when they're babies.
Yeah. I mean, to be like 100% safe, you go with the stuff that's like made for RVs. You know what I mean? Because that stuff
Okay.
to decompose really quickly. But I think just the nature of the feminine products. I mean, that and like diapers and stuff never decompose. So like when aliens find us in 3,000 years, we're just gonna be like tampons and diapers. So
um, and is there like a I don't know. You know how like they say in your stomach you have like you have an look at already. I know, Jeremy, it's fascinating, right? We're supposed to be talking about a guy who could like run you down and he's the champion in the world of running you down and shooting you or running away from you with your guns. And instead we're talking about practical shit, day to day country shit. Is there so does that thing have its own what's it called? Like your gut has its own biome. Is that the word? I should only use words I know the meaning of. But your gut has its own like shit it does to like consume anything you throw in your stomach. Does that septic tank have its own like, hey, this is the ideal makeup of shit in there that breaks stuff down?
yeah, it does. It has there's a lot of bacteria that's breaking stuff down in there. And that's why a lot of people will use like that liquid plumber or whatever that goes down into the pipes. And actually, when that gets out into your tanks, it kills all that bacteria and stuff. And it's counterproductive to at a certain point because it's not you're killing everything in your tanks that are breaking down the organic matter. So
And you would think you'd only want to put stuff down there that since it's going into your yard that I mean, me personally, I'm into trees, fruit trees specifically. You'd only want to put stuff in there that the trees can use, right? Because that leaches into the field and the plants are consuming it then, right?
yeah, normally a lot of times people won't know where their septic field is. And you can walk around and it's the greenest grass and the biggest trees and stuff like that is around the field. It's typically pretty good. I mean, you wouldn't want to like turn it into a garden, but it's typically pretty good for the stuff that's around it.
And do you still own that business?
No, I sold. So I sold that and I sold my landscape and irrigation company all kind of at the same time. And then about a year and a half after that's when I bought the tactical games from Tim. So that's
Was that a good decision?
As a competitor, absolutely not.
It's crazy. That's the first thing I thought when I was confused. I'm like, there's no way this guy owns it and competes. I was just tripping.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a struggle for me because we had just had the first championship, right? So like I would say, so I've won the first two championships, and the first championship I didn't own the tactical games. The second one I did. But I would say it would kind of be like the tactical games was either going to continue or not continue. And either I was going to take it over or it was going to dissolve into nothing. Right. So,
oh, really? That was kind of the trajectory it was on.
Yeah, I would. So I got to be really good friends with the founder, Tim, who Tim Burke is one of the best men I've ever met in my life. He's a great guy.
I met him once, by the way. Like more than met him. I went to Africa with him once.
Yeah, he's. Do you go Africa? Maybe did you go hunting with him in Africa?
No. Look at me, dude. I fucking don't hunt.
I don't know. I mean,
he was guarding me. He was protecting Greg.
Yeah,
he didn't give a fuck. I was the first thing he was going to put between Greg and a bad guy. He was going to just pick me up and throw me at the
he is 100% the guy you want with you if something is going on that is not safe. But he probably didn't have like the best team around him. Tim was new to business ownership, and it's a lot of people don't understand that just about every business turns into the same exact thing if you're good enough or successful enough and you're behind a computer doing spreadsheets and accounting and all the stuff that he didn't want to be doing. And so after I had volunteered and helped with him, and he called me and I started kind of helping him with the business side of things. And after a while, he was just like, hey man, this isn't what I signed up for. It was about, I think, almost 2 years now to the date that he had that conversation with me. And that's when we started talking about it. But I would say, and I'm not equating myself, but like, obviously our audience is a CrossFit audience. So I would say it would be like Froning or Frazier after they had won once or twice, knowing that they can take over CrossFit and the sport continues, or they cannot take it over, the sport's over. But but then you throw in the factor of like, you still have a lot of good years left of competition in you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's definitely a weird, and I am separated by the programming process completely. But that's
Because you're a competitor?
yes. So
Okay.
when I'm competing, I am 100% separated from the programming process. It's not hard to know. Like, competitors can pretty much guess, not guess, but like, it's like CrossFit. You know that you're gonna have like clean and jerks and snatches and all this other stuff going on. You just don't know how many, how heavy, how whatever it is. So,
Right.
but no, there's Jake Mazzell that works for me. He actually was like a equipment 4 lead at the CrossFit Games for quite a while.
Okay. Oh, that's nice. Okay.
So he's the one that programs all the events, and he does, like, a couple weeks ago we had an event in Sawmill. I had no idea what we were doing. I flew in Friday, took a look at everything, said it was good, and then I left Sunday.
Is that an issue? Do you get accused of that? Is that
yes, 100%.
Okay, because you brought it up. I would have never even thought of that. But so you just, that's like something you bring up because it's like, hey, listen, I'm not. Isn't that crazy? On one hand, if it wasn't for you, this thing fucking wouldn't be going on. On the second hand, it's like, hey, he shouldn't be competing. He's on the inside.
Yeah, but I mean,
how old are you?
36.
Oh, okay.
The thing about
you kind of look like Ben Bergeron a little bit. Does anyone ever told you that?
Ben Bergeron? No.
You know who that is?
Yeah, I know
okay.
who he is.
All
right.
You're like a version that didn't shower. You're like the unshowered version of him, unkempt. Like if he went camping, that's what you look like. If Ben went camping.
If he grew like 6 inches and gained 50 pounds. No, but the thing about it is, even before I owned the Tactical Games, I was friends with Tim just because I got to be friends with him, and I'd volunteer when I wasn't competing and stuff like that. And there's accusations before that I'm sure it happens in CrossFit too. Like,
yeah. There was this they were telling us that we were trying to make Rich win every year. We were trying to make Matt win every year. It was kind of the opposite too.
Yeah, in the first,
which is kind of crazy.
The first championship, there was, me and Antone, who historically we had won every competition up until that point. I think either he or I that we were competing in together had won every competition up until that point. And they said that he and I weren't doing well after the first day and a half or something. And then a couple events came up. We did really well in them and got back up on top. And immediately the accusations of protecting the podium came up, and they're just trying to get these guys back up to the top and all that. I mean, it happens in every sport, and you just got to look past it and keep going. So,
right. Are you loving this?
Yeah, man. I mean, I love shooting. I mainly love the 2A community,
What's that? No, I don't know what that is. What do you mean 2A community? What's that?
Second Amendment community, like,
okay.
Firearms, stuff like that. And then I started CrossFit probably 6-7 years ago, and I opened an affiliate about 3 months ago.
I'm sorry.
No, I love it, dude.
Oh, okay, good. Sorry, that was just me. That's just me being a baby over here.
So I guess, it's a good way to bring everything together, because I mean, the Tactical Games, really what it is fitness and shooting. I mean, if you like working out and you like shooting, it's combining those two things. So, but
what is the Second Amendment? I want to pull up the Second Amendment. Let me pull up the second. Do you know it off the top of your head? Like, do you have it memorized?
It's for the people the right for the people to own guns. In so many words, but
a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It says REV 1992. Was it revised?
I don't know.
It's so short.
Yeah. They should have spent a little bit more time on it, probably.
What does the Second Amendment mean in simple terms? This is all just Google shit. The Second Amendment protects an individual, that's like me or you, right?
Yep.
Right to possess a firearm. That's a gun, right? With bullets.
Yep.
Unconnected with service in a militia, meaning like just you and I can have one just like under our bed.
Yes.
I guess. And to use that arm for traditionally lawful purposes, like competitions, shooting bears that are attacking your family, and hunting.
Yep.
And such as self-defense within the home.
I mean, really, like the overlooked, and I don't get into like the extremist side of really anything, but the overarching purpose of the Second Amendment is to protect you from your government and tyranny. I mean, that's, everybody's like, oh, it's for hunting and it's for target shooting. Really what it is to protect you from your government.
How come people don't understand? And you're talking to like, I'm telling you, you're talking to like just one of the most hardcore former liberals you've ever fucking met. I mean, I was fucking born and raised in Oakland, Berkeley, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry that was even born and that I'm alive.
No, man. It's the funny thing.
Why the fuck can't these people understand? What is the biggest, like, I just think now, after what we saw happen in the last 2 years, after watching what happened in Canada, after watching what happened in Australia, I would think everyone, or the UK, I would think everyone in the world would be like, oh my God, they did it right over there. Thank God they have guns over. Thank God the US had guns. If we didn't have guns, the whole world might be fucked. It might all be just like Hong Kong.
Maybe. I think Ukraine's a pretty good example. They immediately started passing guns out to civilians. But
too little, too late. Too little, too late. But I hear you.
It's the funny thing is, and I'm not gonna.
Yes, please do.
I'm not gonna mention names, but there's been a couple of CrossFitters come over and spend time with Hepner. One of them who previously hated firearms and didn't think anybody needed them and stuff like that, and he went out and spent a day on the range, and he's like, man, I love this. This is, because people don't realize how fun it is. Super fun. And it's like golf, just with guns. You're shooting targets. I mean, that's all it is. And
but doing MDMA is fun too. I mean, it's awesome.
I don't know what MDMA is. Is that
it's ecstasy. It's like you get a bag of that and 5 of your closest girlfriends, and you just run out into a field. But beyond fun, the guns are like, they're so important.
Yeah.
They're so important in terms of equalizing the field, making everyone think twice before you do something stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Before you infringe on another man's rights. Like, I would have never, my whole life, I never thought I would hurt anyone. And then I have kids, and like, you would have to die if you came in my house at night.
Yeah. I mean,
with my 3 kids here, you just,
there's a lot of people that say, like, a tackle games competition weekend is a perfect example. There's 250 men and women out there who are all super physically fit. There's, I mean, everybody is super nice, but from the outside looking in, you're looking at these guys like, oh my God, this guy probably looks like an asshole. Nobody gets in arguments. Everybody has a good time. Everybody's joking around. Everything is 100% like the nicest, most welcoming community of people you could ever, like, you could walk up to them and say, I hate guns. I think that, the right to have guns, you shouldn't have them, anything like that. I'm like, cool, man, sit down. Let's talk about it. Like, it's the most welcoming group of people that you will, and people from all walks of life, there's liberals, there's conservatives, everything out there. And that's all that to say is that when you know that you're around armed people, you're a lot less likely to be an asshole and do something stupid.
So I have a ton of liberal friends. They say they're liberal, but they're not liberal, and they just can't give up the label. By that I mean, imagine, and I'm sorry to be so extreme, but it's just really easy. Imagine saying that you're a Nazi, but the only thing that you didn't like is that one part about loading the Jews up in the trains and taking them over to the ovens. Other than that, it's great.
Yeah.
And I feel like that, like more and more liberals are like, oh, I'm a Democrat, and I'll be like, well, what about this BLM thing that's only hurt black people for the last 2 years? Well, I didn't like that. Okay, well, what about this part over here about defund the police? Oh, I didn't like that. It's like, hey, when are you going to realize that, like, hey, you're not that. I don't get how, and I'm not asking you to defend all liberals, by the way, but I don't get, and I'm sorry for making it political, but I don't get how someone could be for the Second Amendment and claim to be a liberal. I for some reason there's a disconnect there. Like, they need to rethink there's a nuance there, right? It's like, I used to watch football. I used to think I was a football fan until I realized that I was really only a 49er and a Raider fan. I watched every 49er and Raider game when I was in junior high. But if they didn't go to the Super Bowl, I didn't watch the Super Bowl because I didn't give a fuck. I just liked my team. And it's kind of like that. I just feel like that there's some
I think it's important to understand that, like, to look at everything. You don't have to be on one side or the other about everything.
Right. Okay.
You can believe in high taxes for wealthy people and think that you should own a gun. Both of those things, you can have both of those things in your room.
Absolutely.
Get along. So, like, maybe you're a liberal because you're more fiscally liberal. That doesn't mean that just because you're going to vote Democrat means you have to hate people with guns too.
Right.
So that's what.
You're a good dude. You're a better man than me. You're the son my mom wished she had.
But I think it's important not to just get blinded by a couple of things, and then say that now I have to believe in all of those things.
Right. That this is your team, and no matter what they say, you're going to follow it blindly.
Exactly. Yes.
Have the tactical games always been both sexes?
Yeah, I think it was the first two. She actually still competes. She got third in the last. So we have like 7 to 10 events during the year that are kind of comparable to what like the regionals were probably.
Okay.
The championship. So
are these the okay? And I'm looking at them. It's the upcoming events. I'll pull them up. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
But her name's Carla Herdzik. I think she competed in the first ever, and I want to say she was the only one in one of the first two. And then she was one of like one or two in the second or first one. But about a year, so when I bought the tactical games, the first thing that we did is we implemented a women's only tactical games university is what we called it. But it was a weekend where we sent an instructor out. It was free for the women to come. I think up to 20 is what we allowed. They came, they learned how to shoot guns. They learned, the different processes, how to be safe, how to unload the gun and make sure it's safe, stuff like that. When we started doing that, the conversion rate from the people that came to the tactical games universities to actual coming to the competition was almost 100%. So now we have between probably 15 and 20 women at each competition, which in the firearm, like the competitive shooting sphere is it's about double of what you might see at like a 3-gun match per se.
So it's kind of it's a not, recruiting program would be too hard, but basically it's a
kind of like a familiarization or like confidence boosting, like.
Yeah. What about you should have another one on pussies from Berkeley, so I could go. Like but you don't have to be that exclusive. You could include Boston. Yeah, Boston and Berkeley. That would be good.
Hey, one of the best competitors we have is from Boston. He's a chiropractor from Boston.
He has all the testosterone in the whole entire town. Well, okay. So I like that. And you do that every year? That's an open course. Is that where is that held?
All over the country. We actually had I think we had 3 or 4 of them that we rented the range out, sent an instructor up there. It's Tess Salb. She amazing person in the industry. Really good shooter. She's won several times. we send her around, and it's between 15 and 20 people per, and I think we had 4 last year, and we're kind of revamping that programming, or revamping that program and renaming it and putting it back out. And actually, one of the guy that runs the program comes from CrossFit, Zach Forrest.
Oh yeah, I love Zach. Yes, former SEAL out of he owned CrossFit Las Vegas.
Yeah, I think it was CrossFit. Why am I? Yes, but it was.
Yes.
He had like 4 gyms.
Yeah, he's one of the greatest movers I've ever seen. By the way, it's burned into my head. Like him and Spieler and James Hobart. What great movers!
We always. I've got memes about him and James Hobart. And they look exactly the same.
They should definitely have a kid together. I'm gonna text both of them and tell them that after the show. I think I still have Zach's number. It's okay. 2022, they can do it.
Yeah, but he runs the whole training side. So like we have a training app that it puts out daily programming, and then the Tactical Games University, we're rebranding it to something else, but he's the one that's in charge of all that. It's appropriate, right? I mean, he checks all the boxes, and he's incredibly knowledgeable in fitness. I mean, just he's a good dude.
So this is such a cool program. So basically 4 times a year, is it a 1 day or 2 day course? How many days is the course?
It's a 2 day course, Saturday and Sunday.
And it's in different places throughout the country. And it's basically women can come and sign up free. They're in an all woman environment, and basically they get hands on with the guns. And do they do a little bit of fitness too at the same time? Like, hey, this is kind of the whole tactical game.
A little bit. To be 100% honest with you, there's not a whole lot of like world-class shooters like Tess around and some of the other people. So we spend a whole lot of time on shooting. And when it comes to the fitness thing, we seriously just tell them like, hey, if you need to learn how to pick up a sandbag or an axle bar or all these things, run over and pay a CrossFit coach like $50 for an hour of instruction, and find a CrossFit gym, and they'll teach you how to do all this stuff. Because pretty much no matter where you're at in the country, you're always within like an hour of 10 CrossFit gyms.
Right. That's true.
So, but having access to a world-class shooter is not always available. So,
is this girl's name Tess Shoot for Gold? Is that her?
Yep, that's her.
Isn't that crazy? I just okay, her account's private. Okay, so she's on a whole nother. Oh yeah, 6 times Tactical Games winner, competitive shooter, CrossFitter coach, Notre Dame alum. Okay, so she's top of the food chain for the ladies.
It's one of the smartest people I know too. Yeah.
Well, that's good. You'd want the person to.
She was actually she did with CrossFit. I think she was one of the people on the seminar staff like real early.
I can't tell what she looks like by this picture too, because she's got a gun in front of her face and the glasses, and her hair's all pulled up.
The thing is about all the shooters, and we're all shadow banned like super seriously. So a lot of people have private accounts and stuff like that to try and prevent like getting kicked off of Instagram.
Right.
Because it happens a lot.
So the Second Amendment protects you, but Instagram.
Yeah. Like
what a weird world we live in.
To find like a really good shooter,
these are the shooters you would want to have out there so that you could change the reputation of firearms, because right now firearms is this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And rap music. Why not have this geeky girl who's showing like, she's intelligent, she trains, she's probably got this job, she does this, she's probably raising kids, and then on the side she's also like a professional, showing her cleaning her gun. I mean,
it's I think that
it's nuts. It would be like if they outlawed all physicists from posting because they make nuclear bombs. It's like, wait a minute.
I think the community of people that compete in these would shock most people. Most of it is like in the tactical games, we're pretty much, it's about 33% law enforcement, 33% military, and 33% civilian. And from those things, a lot of it is retired military or previously, just recently retired military. And then law enforcement, there's a lot of people that are definitely still SWAT cops that are doing it. But a lot of them are doctors and dentists and CPAs, and it's a lot of highly educated people that are there.
Were you in law enforcement or in the military?
No.
When did you? Well, how old were you when you first shot a gun?
I shot my first deer when I was 6.
Wow.
It was, for me, I growing up, I had to learn that everybody didn't have guns around. Like, my dad was not a gun fanatic at all. Like, we had guns to hunt with, and that's it. And
did you have one like just set by the door? Was it like that? I mean, did you live somewhere like that?
When
like
my
a shotgun was behind the door, and
I had guns in my closet since I was 6 or 7, and then when my dad would go out of town, he brought a shotgun upstairs and set it under my bed, and I was the one, like, I knew how to use a gun, and I was the one in the house. So, but it was never like, I think people have this perception in their mind that, like, this gun is just this elephant in the room. But for me growing up, and for my kids, like, I may have, a gun in my office, and they come in, and it's like a computer screen sitting there. It's just something else that's sitting there. They don't look at it. They don't touch it. They don't care about it. So yeah, it's just, a lot of it's an education thing as well. So
it's so weird. It's so interesting how perceptions are made. My sister, coming from California, and my sister married into a family in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference and so I made a few trips out to Texas. I met those people. They would come to California, and they're like, they're like real Texans. You know what I mean? Like people on ranches and shit, and people in Dallas and business. And it was so incredible how they were like almost like a different, they had a whole different breed of civility and kindness. And if you're having dinner and someone enters the room, especially a woman, everyone stands up, all the dudes stand up, and just all of the way they would treat my mom. And but you never hear any of that stuff. It's fascinating, the cultural differences and what you think, what you're being told by the media versus then when you experience it. It's just there's not even a small match.
Right.
It's not even a
but the culture in Texas is changing a lot.
Yeah, sure. I could see that. I mean, as all the Californians move out there?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
well, hopefully they'll learn. Hopefully they won't change it. Hopefully they'll assimilate.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up here. I was born about 30 minutes away from where I live, so I haven't gone very far, but there's been a huge cultural shift for sure. So we actually kind of moved from Austin, or North Austin, Round Rock area, and we moved about 45 minutes further north to kind of get away from it. So
even Southern California is significantly different than Northern California. I went to school at UC Santa Barbara, and I remember my friends who I made there from Southern California, they were always surprised when I said hi to people.
Yeah.
Because that's what you do in Northern California. You're walking down the sidewalk and you pass someone, you would say hi to them. Like, even if you don't know them, like, you just like, hey, make eye contact, and they don't do that in LA. It's kind of like, look away.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because they have so many people, right? You just can't do it to, like, New York City. You couldn't do it to everyone. You'd be like, hey. You'd be fucked.
Yeah. Yeah.
I heard one time it's like the healthy amount of people is like 6 people per square mile, and whatever that means, healthy. But in New York City, it's like 440,000 people per square mile.
Yeah.
I can't even get my head wrapped around that.
Yeah. I've got a ranch in West Texas, and you can be out there for a week and not see anybody.
Yeah, that's where my sister is now. She's in West Texas, and she runs a ranch for for fancy people who have hunters who pay to come out and hunt the land.
Yeah, that's a pretty common thing. So
yeah, she loves it.
Yeah, it's a good way to live a low stress lifestyle. That's for sure.
Yeah, my 3 nephews out there, by the time they were like 10, they were already like men. They knew it, like they knew guns. They knew they're not afraid of rattlesnakes. They ride motorcycles. They drive cars. I mean, you know what I mean? They're like, by 10 years old, they're more competent than I was now.
Yeah, it's learning to drive really early and doing all that other stuff. It's pretty common. Yeah.
I heard you say in a video I was watching that you talked about the importance of grip strength.
Yep.
Did I hear that right? Okay, why grip strength in for the tactical games?
It's one of the easiest ways to a lot of the stuff that we do and that differs, I guess, from CrossFit is so you can it's mainly it's a kind of fitness that you can always take one more step, right? And it's just making a mental decision on whether or not you're going to endure the pain that you're in. So a lot of stress carries, and then grip strength is one of the easiest ways to get into somebody's mind, right? Because when your grip starts to go, you can always hang on to something, especially way longer than you think you can. It's just whether or not you're willing to keep hanging on. And then also it's one of the most overlooked aspects of fitness. Like in CrossFit, a lot of people get really used to hook gripping everything all the time. So they might be extremely strong, but their grip gets fatigued really quick. And
For those of you who don't know, hook grip is when you put your index finger over your thumb, right? As a kind of a lock. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of the implements that we use, like we use the fat axle bar and then farmers carries bars and jerry cans. They're too big around to hook grip it. So you just have to use I guess a conventional grip. I don't know what you call it, but and it's important in everything from carrying sandbags, carrying yokes, lifting stuff, carrying stuff. It's more about carrying weight over distance than it is reps for time, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of that you're saying in those events.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Do you have kids?
Yeah, I got 2 kids.
How old are they?
6 and 11.
Oh, okay.
7 and 11. 7.
Okay, because I also heard you say that your kid. One of the reasons, I think if I heard it right, one of the reasons you sold your business and you sort of moved in the direction that you've moved is so that you could still spend more time with them while they're at influential age.
Yep. When I was running my landscape and irrigation company, I was out of the house about 5 o'clock and I wasn't back to probably 8 p.m. And I was missing out on a lot. So owning a business isn't all it's cracked up to be sometimes. So one of the main reasons why I got out of that was not only that, but also the stress. Dealing with huge contracts and people not paying you on time and stuff like that. It definitely ages you early. One of my good friends that is still in the construction industry always said that we come back home every day 1% more of an asshole. So I guess I had reached that breaking point, so I needed to find a new direction.
You were 110% asshole. I bring up the kids because from before my kids were born, I hung rings in the living room. Mm-hmm. And so my kids have grown up hanging.
Yeah.
And when they were about 3 years old, I saw, oh shit, my kids are totally different from all other kids and everything they do for 2 reasons. One, because their grip strength is just absolutely nuts and they have crazy confidence in their hands. And when you have confidence in your hands, like until you have confidence in your hands or you don't have confidence in your hands, you can't even understand really what I'm saying. And I think you understand.
Yep.
It changes the whole landscape. Everything's climbable. The biggest tree, any chain link fence, fucking anything once you have confidence in your hands. And then the second thing, their core strength. They have crazy core awareness because as soon as you start hanging, your feet come in front of you. And so, and I still have, my kids are 5 and 7 and they still hang every single day. And it's made them just, I used to talk about it all the time. I don't talk about it so much anymore, but I can't emphasize how it's just made them, they're not human. They're they're nothing like any other human being I've ever seen because they're like monkeys. They just hang. They can just hang.
Yeah. I think with especially my daughter and my son, it's becoming important. But I always encouraged her to do multiple things, not just get good at one thing. So I mean, she did gymnastics, cheerleading, volleyball, basketball. She shoots a bow. She shoots guns. She paints her nails. Like she's a super girly girl. But she also can pick up a full-size pistol and load it and shoot targets with it.
Does she paint your nails?
No.
She's never painted your toes?
She's never painted my toes. No, she paints her mom's nails, but she doesn't.
Awesome. But if she said, "Dad, could I paint your toes?" you would be like, "Yes, ma'am, you could do what you want," wouldn't you?
I don't know. Probably not.
Nah, I bet you she could do whatever she wants. You might run away, but she'd catch you.
Yeah.
You pretend to run away so you had a good story. I ran, she tackled me.
Yeah.
Next thing I know, I had pink nails.
Yeah.
When you sell a business like that, it changes everything. I mean, I guess the first thing I think of is like you have 2 kids. Does your wife work?
Yeah, she's a pharmacist.
Oh, well, that's cool. That's nice. And are you basically a full-time dad now?
No, I mean,
or do you try to be?
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm here every day. The most important thing to me is that I'm here every day when my kids get off the bus. I put them on the bus most mornings. You know, and when I'm here, I'm present, and that's the main thing. Because when I had a bunch of employees when I had the irrigation company, and they would call in septic company, and they would call me. I got my first phone calls at 4:15, 4:30 a.m., and I got my last phone calls at like 10 p.m. So I was never off the clock, and it was never really a situation where we'd go on vacation, and I had to step away for 2 or 3 times for an hour to make calls, make arrangements, you know, put out fires, stuff like that. So, I mean, not to say that owning the tactical games isn't a full-time job, but it's definitely compartmentalized. I can turn it off. You know, at like 4 o'clock, I can turn it off, and I don't have to pay attention to it anymore until the next day. Then competition weekends, we have a really good team put together now. So I normally don't get there till about midday Friday. And then I usually try and find a flight out late on Sunday. So I'm not gone, you know, but 2 days, 3 days. So
what does that mean to be present?
Present. So not only like physically there, but mentally you're engaged with your kids. So you're not just sitting in the room, but you're spaced out thinking about what you have to do the next day at work. Like you're present with them. So anyway, that's important to me.
It's interesting. I would always claim that I'm like hyper present with my kids, but I multitask like a mofo too. You know what I mean? Like I take them to the skate park and then make phone calls.
Yeah.
And then I do laps around the skate park until one of them calls me and goes, "Can you help me with this?" And then I get off the phone and go down there and help them.
Do you do this? Do you do skateboarding too or no?
No.
Oh, okay.
You know, when they say like you should never live your life vicariously through your kids, you should never make your kids do the shit that you wish you'd have done. I am that.
Okay.
Like my kids do jujitsu because I'm a pussy. My kids do skateboarding because I'm terrified of skateboards. They do dancing because I'm terrified of dance. You know what I mean? It's all the stuff. I hope they thank me for it.
Yeah.
I hope everyone else is wrong and I'm right.
I played golf through college, and that's what one of them tried to start picking up golf clubs one day. I was like, "No, let's put those down. Let's not do that."
Let's not. Oh, and why is that?
Man, golf is so.
You think it's unhealthy? You think golf's like a pathology? It's like it's a sickness. It's not a real.
It's so like golf is a 365-day a year sport, and it's 4 to 6 hours a day every day. If you take a week off, you're a month behind when you get back.
Oh wow.
And it's a mental illness. Like to be good at golf, you have to have a mental illness for it. Like I would say almost with certainty that just about everybody that's a touring pro has some sort of mental illness that keeps them able to do that for so long.
I feel like tennis has a lot of wackadoodles in it.
I mean, I think that could be. I think it probably could be said to the same thing with anybody at the top of any sport to a degree. But I think.
But even the beginners at tennis, like if you go to local courts, everyone's a fucking freak, like just an asshole.
Yeah.
Just like even the old ladies are talking shit to you. Like, you can't have more than 10 balls on the court. Okay.
Have more than 10 balls on the court.
Or what? Like they got all these rules. Yeah. Like, so I'll show up there with like a whole bucket of balls, and they're like, "Are you giving lessons?" And I'm like, "No." They're like, "Well, then why do you need so many balls?" I'm like, just because it's how I carry my balls. She's like, well, you can't have that many balls out here. I'm like, okay, ma'am, I'll only pull 4 out. Like, you know what I mean? Oh,
What is
it's
it?
nuts. It's a savage. It's the
Oh,
exact opposite of what you said about the shooting community at the
yeah,
tactical games. No one is nice. You'll show up to someone, you'll show up at the tennis courts 20 minutes before the next guy waiting for a court, and a court
yeah,
will open and someone behind you will try to take it. And like literally you will have to, and this is regular, you'll have to say, I was here 20 minutes before you. And then
but
they'll be like, well, how long are you going to be out there? And you'll be like, well, the sign says I have 90 minutes, but I'm not in very good shape. So I'm guessing 35. I mean, it is nuts.
so they don't want you to litter the whole court with the balls. That's what.
Who even knows what the reason is? I
Okay.
think they're just looking for a reason just to be an asshole to you. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
I just can't wait till my kids are old enough to beat up these old ladies.
So like grown men will try and kick kids off of the tennis court.
Oh, they'll try to kick you off. It's nuts. It's nuts. It is a, and I didn't know this about that community. That community is not cool. The jiu-jitsu community kind of feels like the jiu-jitsu gym feels more like how tactical games feel. I go there and 99% of the people there are so fucking cool. There's always some weirdo there who's got a chip on his shoulder,
Yeah.
but like that's a nice group of men. No posturing, help your kids. Like if your car broke down somewhere, you wouldn't want it to be at the tennis courts. You want it to be at the jiu-jitsu gym. Someone could run over with a pair of jumper cables like that.
That's 100% how the tactical games is. Like,
yeah,
I think, but the public perception of that is different, right? You would think that, oh, tennis is a high profile, proper sport, and this and that, and jiu-jitsu is just a bunch of like aggressive men. But when you actually get to know the people that are doing it, you would much rather assimilate yourself with somebody in a jiu-jitsu gym or, a competitive shooter or something like that than a guy off a golf course, because there's a lot of assholes in golf too. So
yeah, I would guess. Yeah, it's funny you say that. You could go to the jiu-jitsu gym and someone would share their water with you. At tennis, they never would. Or, I mean, the jiu-jitsu gym stayed open through the pandemic.
yeah,
Like no one, like everyone there's like has personal responsibility and personal accountability and would look out for themselves. Where all the other shit's like shutting down. Even though they were supposed to shut down, they just don't. They're like, fuck you.
I think a lot of the undertone is also a mutual respect for somebody else that can like really hurt you.
Right.
So like you don't want to be a jerk to somebody that, let's all just be nice. We don't have to prove anything.
Right.
So, I think that probably has a lot to do with it.
How long have you owned the tactical games?
I took over January 1st of 2021. So
okay. So it's new. Is that when you sell your business and you move to this, how does that affect your relationship with your wife? I'm assuming it's like this is like a big discussion.
She was 100% about me getting out of construction. Because I mean, I don't do really
construction or landscape and septic tanks, or that's like, kind of you lump it all up in there.
Yeah. So when you say I owned a landscaping company, people, their perception, their mind is like you're planting tulips.
Yeah. But, you're building fences and brick walls and stuff.
Yeah, we were doing like $300,000 to $1.5 million jobs. So like,
okay,
we were doing concrete, leveling, site prep, all from A to B, the whole deal. But it was really dangerous. There's always a risk of somebody getting hurt on the job sites. It was very stressful. There's a lot of hard to deal with people in that industry. And she was 100% ready for me to get out of it. It was more so like I have a lot of energy and I have to direct that energy towards things or it can become unhealthy. And I had been out of it for probably like 4 or 5 months and I needed something to do. So I was already, it honestly just lined up really well with timing for me. Because I was definitely going to start doing something. I just didn't know what it was at the time. And it just lined up and it worked out. So
why did you start your landscape business?
I graduated with a degree in psychology in 2008. And
no shit.
If you
went to college for psychology?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, we have to circle back around to that. You don't like attention. You hate podcasts, right?
it's a necessary thing for me to do. Yeah. I wouldn't, and I'm not saying this to blow like smoke up your skirt. I get asked to go on a lot of podcasts, and I say no most of the time.
I mean, it's very. I mean, I like you a lot. Like, if you were my neighbor, I would make it a project to bug the shit out of you. I'd visit you like once a week, just like at dinner time when I know it hated you, just because I would just need to just see your reaction. But you're very you're not. You're far from rude. You're clearly a gentleman, but you are extremely reserved.
Yeah,
for the front man of the tactical games.
I think I've never had a boss. My dad was.
Look at someone said this right here. So look at this. He hates it. He's humble as fuck. I agree. I get both those vibes. Okay, sorry. So you had a boss. Say it again.
I've never had a boss. Well, I guess in college I did. But so in college I worked for an irrigation company in Abilene, which is like kind of West Texas.
My sister lived there.
Okay, yeah.
At one point, she ran a ranch outside of Abilene. Okay.
Yeah, so I played. That's where our ranch is, just outside of Abilene. But I played golf at Abilene Christian University, and then I got kicked out of Abilene Christian University after 2 years.
Because of grades?
No.
Girls?
I was there on a golf scholarship, and you have to really, really behave yourself. And I wasn't used to really behaving myself. I didn't do anything crazy. I was just being a normal person. But
like drinking and driving the golf cart, like
just
stuff
not,
like that.
Not the driving part, but the drinking part, definitely.
Okay.
So the
God, college was fun.
Yeah. So 2008 was the middle of like that recession, and I tried to get a job just about everywhere around Austin, and the only thing that I knew how to do was fix sprinkler systems and mow grass. So I started doing repairs for a local maintenance company that mows a bunch of grass.
Mm-hmm.
I started doing a bunch of repair. I got licensed for it in Texas and started doing a bunch of repairs, and I kept looking for good jobs. And then next thing you know, I had 50 employees and built a life around it. And that's how that happened.
How do you get your first employee? You're doing it, and one of your homeboys is like, dude, I don't got a job. And you're like, hey, dude, I'll pay you $10 an hour. Fucking trape around with me and do whatever I say.
It was one of the most humbling things I've ever done in my life, because I think a lot of people take it lightly when they hire somebody. But when Saul was the first guy that I hired. And
Canelo Alvarez?
Huh?
Did you say Saul?
Saul, yeah.
Yeah, that's Canelo Alvarez's real name.
Oh, okay. Oh, Saul.
You know who that is, right? The greatest, the redhead. Okay, yeah. Okay.
Saul got
You almost ruined my joke. Go on.
Saul, I got to where I was doing like 2 sprinkler systems a week by myself, and it's really hard to install a sprinkler system. A lot of digging trenches and stuff, and I was doing it all by myself. And then when I got to where I was doing about 3 a week, I hired Saul to help me like on Thursdays and Fridays to finish up the last one.
Is your body hurting to do 3 a week?
Yeah.
Like you're just sore and beat up. Even as a young man, it's just fucking too much.
Yeah. And
your hands hurt. And
in Texas, it's like 110 degrees outside. But anyway, so.
Do you have your wife at this point? This is 2008. Do you have your wife? Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And anyway, he asked me about just him coming and doing it, and him bringing a friend. And initially, I didn't realize how big of an undertaking it is to hire somebody. But when you're hiring somebody, like he had a kid, he had a wife. Like now, I'm responsible. The decisions that I make when I wake up in the morning are affecting 3 people's livelihoods. And then next thing you know, I had 30 employees, then 50, then 60. And like I sat down one day and figured it out to make sure I was keeping myself accountable when I woke up every morning. And I was responsible for the livelihood of like 360, 380 people, from their kids getting shoes to go to school, to the food that was going on their table, to the kids' soccer games that they're paying for to be part of a league. Like all of that depended on me waking up in the morning and making good decisions and being responsible. And that's an undertaking and a responsibility that I think a lot of business owners miss early in their career or the reason why they're not successful is that it's a lot easier to do your job when you sit around and think about all the kids that are out there that want the dress for their dance and stuff
Right.
like that. And that depends on you doing your job really well. So, yeah, that's how I started my hours in training. I graduated from the University of Oklahoma, and I started my hours in training for my, what do they call it, to become a counselor. And a kid came in and was telling me about what was going on at his house. And I decided I was going to take the problem into my own hands with his dad. And
shit. Wait. How did we get to this? What year is this?
It's 2008, but that's
So you're doing that and the sprinkler thing.
No. This was right when I was graduating from college.
Okay. Sorry. Okay.
That's when I decided that I couldn't be a counselor, because I almost beat the guy up in the parking lot. I called the cops instead, but that's when I realized that.
So what did this kid tell you that happened?
He was being abused at home.
Sexually or physically?
Both.
And so you went over and you found out where his dad is, and you went and talked to him.
His dad was out in the waiting room, and
oh shit.
The protocol.
Shit. Shit. This is crazy. This is like some movie shit.
So the protocol is you just contact the authorities and you sit and wait until you get there. But I had seen what had happened a few times, and that like they're just back out doing the same shit 2 weeks later. And so that's when that whole structure of events is how I decided that wasn't for me. That both my sisters do it, and they're absolutely saints for what they do. Like everybody in that profession, it's the amount of mental fortitude that you have to be able to listen to some of that stuff and not react is unbelievable. So.
Oh man, I know better than to go here, but here we go. Isn't it weird kind of what's happening in society in terms of, so if I told you I had a problem with like, I don't know, some mental disorder. Let's go with just something really easy. Let's say I was just anorexic, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know exactly what that is, but if I'm wrong, if I'm saying this wrong, I apologize. Let's say I ate and then make myself throw up, whatever that is, bulimia or anorexia. And I do that, and I'm doing that every meal. And then I come to you, my counselor, I'm Jared Halbert, and I'm like, yeah, I have anorexia. You would somehow try to put me in some sort of protocol that would address that issue. And we would make the assumption, or we would be clear that the issue is that, hey, Sevon, you need to find a way to eat, keep your food down, and move on with your life. Whatever's causing you to eat and then throw up, this is an unhealthy behavior.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't say, hey, dude, I have an idea. Why don't we fucking, so you never have to do that again, why don't we wire your jaw shut and give you liposuction and make you even skinnier?
Yeah.
But that is some of the stuff that we're seeing in the media now. Now I'm super thankful, and I don't mean to pass judgment on anyone. I'm super thankful that I'm just happy with who I am.
Yeah.
Whatever that means. And so when I take a piss, I just assume biologically I'm a man because I got those parts. But like I don't have like all these things like about gender and all this shit. I don't have any of those. I'm never like, hey, I should walk like this so I appear to be a man. I don't do any of that. The only man shit I do, I think, is like pee and hump.
Yeah.
And other than that, I don't really care. Like I don't care.
Yeah.
And but if I thought I was a woman and I went to a doctor and I showed him I have a penis, but I think I'm a woman, instead of like trying to help me get back to being a man, now they're like, okay, well, should we remove your penis or start you on some therapy to train? Like it's the opposite of how you would treat anorexia or other, like if you went with some, so and here's the scary one, and this is kind of, I don't know why we're going here, but except that I'm a wackadoodle. If I went to someone and said that, hey, I'm a pedophile, I would want them to try to fix me, not fucking normalize pedophilia.
Yeah.
Do you see where I'm going with it? And we have this world that's like, we should be helping people, not normalizing people's derangements, right?
Yeah, I'm more. I just my opinion on it is I don't care what people do in their own house as long as they're not affecting anybody else.
Well, and hurting kids, right? I don't care what you do in your own house
Yeah,
either.
you'd be
But
affecting
you can't.
somebody else if you're hurting
Yeah,
kids.
yeah, you
But
can't hurt kids.
the I don't know. I stay 100% away from all the gender stuff. And like, if you feel like you're a guy and you're a girl currently, you do you.
Right.
I don't care.
But you were a psychology major. It's just like, I mean, as a counselor, you weren't there to like, I mean, what if you would have talked that kid into like, oh, it's totally normal. Don't worry. It's okay for that's the way I feel like the world sometimes is going. Like,
Yeah,
instead of like trying to help people, we're trying to normalize everything. Like,
yeah,
no, waking up and drinking a 6-pack of Coke should never be normal. It's not.
no, yeah, no. It's I
It's
see
like
what
it's like what you said in the beginning. It's like, it's not what's that shit you said you're not supposed to put in your septic tank?
the liquid plumber.
Yeah.
Yeah, the I and I think that there's probably a perception around being an owner of a gun stuff, but like I am 100% a proponent of what you're doing in your own home is your thing, as long as
Me
you're not
too.
hurting
Me
somebody
too.
else. And I stay away from it. And we've had a couple of women that were born men compete in the tactical games, and nobody knew, nobody noticed, and honestly, they didn't do very well. I didn't say anything about it, and when they contacted me about it, I just said, "Hey, look, if you're a woman now, I don't care. Like, I don't even know why you're telling me this. Just show up and compete." And if my stance on it is that if there is a unfair advantage that's being gained, I am pulling you out of the competition. Like,
Fair enough. Yeah.
if I'm standing back there and I'm like, "Hey, man, you joined this competition this weekend and you made the decision to be a female 3 days ago, but you were like pumping roids 5 days ago as a gym bro," like, I'm going to take issue with that. And
Right.
when they contacted me through email, I was like, "Listen, I don't remember things very well, and I'm not going to make it a habit to know your name. So sign up under the division that you feel you need to sign up under. But I'm just warning you, if you show up and I immediately recognize something that is not equitable, I'm stopping it immediately." And like, you
That
can't.
seems fair. That seems fair. Fair and open of you.
Yeah, and I was like, "You can't get mad at me for it." I was like, "You're the one that's putting yourself in this situation." And
You also don't want to get sued though either, right?
I don't give a shit about that.
Oh.
But
Texas. You don't want to get sued. I don't give a shit about that. Texas.
It's just, why should I give if somebody shows up and I still don't, there's been 2 of them that sent me emails. I don't know if they signed up or not. I think one of them ended up signing up, but I couldn't tell you what their name was, and I couldn't point at them to tell you which one it was. So my thing,
you should have got that doctor's business card. That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, my thing is that if I'm sitting there and I can't tell, why is it's none of my business. And
right.
The other thing is, why did they even contact me? Like, if they feel like they're a woman, they're a woman. Sign up and be a woman. I don't care. But
I agree with that too. We had that at CrossFit too. Someone wanted to sign. Someone asked. I remember, and it was just like Greg was like, "Hey, dude, I do whatever the fuck you want."
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is like, if you walk up to the men's elite bar, right, and it's got 245 pounds on it, and you clean and jerk it 10 times to warm up for your female event that's coming up, and like, we're gonna have a fucking conversation about you not competing in that division anymore, because that's obviously.
Do you guys test? You guys test?
We're not big enough to test right now.
Right.
And to be honest with you, the shooting component of the sport really levels things out. To where,
do you even care if someone was doing, like, is that even like
there's 100% people on steroids right now that are competing, and I know who they are. And
do you even care though? I mean, does it bother you?
I'm not on steroids and I win. I don't give a shit. Like,
I want to do not I want to do. I'm going to throw an event that's like the CrossFit Games here, and it's going to be called the California Hormone Games, and there's going to be no testing. But it's funny you say it because I still think, and the prize money is going to be massive, and I still think Justin Medeiros is going to come out there and just win it.
So the thing,
like just totally natural, just hi guys, all sweet and shit. Where's the events and just dominate.
So steroids don't turn you into an athlete. They may make you stronger, they may make you recover faster, and they may
make you bald.
But they don't make you move better. They don't help your mobility. They don't help your mindset. They don't turn you into an athlete. So if you couldn't throw a ball before, you're not going to be able to throw a ball after you do steroids.
I do think that they kind of help your mindset, though. I mean, I've never done them, but I'm just hearing like that. Everyone I know who's done them, no.
I from outside looking in on a couple of guys there's a couple of guys I don't know for sure, but there's a couple of guys I do know for sure that did it. They lost their
marbles, their mind.
And it's with a shooting aspect. You have to stay completely level-headed, because if you're way too intense and you've gotten way too deep into the workout portion of it, you're not going to be able to hit any targets. And so if you're that focused on the physical aspect of it, or you're going that hard on the physical aspect of it, you're not going to be able to hit anything. I watched that Froning documentary where he's like, I don't think it's an advantage. In CrossFit, absolutely it's an advantage. But I don't think if you put me on steroids and let me be on steroids for 3 years, I'm not going to come and beat Justin Medeiros at CrossFit.
Right.
I'm still going to suck at CrossFit. So,
do you have any tattoos?
No.
Yeah, me neither. You don't seem like a tattoo guy. I would have guessed that. It would have been hard to guess it because everyone has one.
Yeah.
And why don't you have any? Do you know?
My mom would have beat the shit out of me if I
right.
Right. And still, like, to this, if I showed up at home with a tattoo, my mom would beat the hell out of me for it. So
yeah, no. And have you ever had the desire to get one?
No.
Yeah.
Me neither. I don't have anything against them. I don't know. My wife has one. But
where's hers?
The typical stamp.
Like, and do you like it?
Well, I mean, I graduated from OU and it's a Longhorn, so not really, but it is what it
is. Why did you start CrossFit?
I broke my back in a ATV accident. And
oh my God, you're so Texas.
Yeah.
Albaline, broken back from ATV. And let me guess, is your girlfriend is your wife from high school?
We went to the same high school, but I didn't know her. I did not know her in high school. She actually graduated with my sister.
Wow.
So she's 5 years older than I am. So she was out of high school before I got in. But broke my back. I gained like 30 or 40 pounds.
How'd you break your back? What year was that?
It's probably 7-8 years ago now. It was 7 years ago because my wife was pregnant with my son. So
your first kid?
Second kid.
Second. Can you tell me the story before you tell me can you tell me the ATV story?
Yeah. So
that's a 3-wheel. That's a 3-wheel thing.
No, it was the UTV, like the razors that they do in the desert and stuff. And
so it has like a cage and shit.
Mm-hmm. The cage is what broke my back.
Of course.
I wasn't seat buckled, and I was driving to a deer stand, and the shock tower broke on the front right, and it locked up the suspension, and it flipped the UTV, and it rolled on top of me. I got pinned underneath it.
Okay, sorry. Hold on 1 second here.
Yep.
This thing, you were in this?
Yeah, but the 4-seater version of that.
Yeah. And that red shock right there snapped?
Yeah, so where that red shock connects to the frame at the top of it, there's a tab right there, and that tab broke. So the shock went through the plastic hood, and the tire collapsed down into the frame, like the tire hit the fender, and it made it flip when it did that.
A total freak accident, or were you like jumping off like a 6-foot?
No, I was going like 20 miles an hour with my foot hanging off the side with no seatbelt. So
a total 1 in a million.
Oh yeah, I was on an oil field road, so it was like completely manicured dirt road. It wasn't like I wasn't doing anything dumb in it when it happened.
Nuts.
Got the doctors kept giving me pain pills and stuff, and
Which vertebrae did you break?
it was in my I had 8 fractures in my thoracic spine, so upper back.
So like towards your neck.
Yeah, so I went because I thought I broke my leg, and I went in and they're asking me questions like, yeah, I was like, my neck's kind of stiff, but my leg really hurts. And I went to the hospital the next day because the ranch is kind of real far out. And next thing I knew, they're like, well, let's do an MRI or CAT scan, whichever one it is. And they immediately came back in and put me in a neck brace and told me I couldn't move. And they gave me an option of either surgery or I couldn't lift over 5 pounds for 6 months or 7 months. So I went with the not lifting weight over 5 pounds for 7 months. And I basically had to lay in bed, not do much.
Were you so stiff every morning? I broke my back once, and it was my lower back. 2 vertebrae came in and smashed one. I jumped off a roof. And when I woke up in the morning, I was just stuck. I was like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Yeah,
I was just stuck.
It was I separated my quad too, or like the inside muscle of your quad. I forgot what the name of that specific muscle is, but that hurt a lot worse than my back did.
What do you mean separated? Like it came off the bone?
No, like the roll cage smashed on top of my femur and it pushed the muscle away from each other.
So if you had one muscle, now you had 2. Like it kind of split open your quadricep muscle?
Yeah, so I still have like a section of my quad that is like a divot.
Wow.
So, but anyway, that's what I started CrossFit against the doctor's wishes about a year after that accident. And I would say after I was very careful in the gym that I started at, like the owner thankfully was like a really laid back guy. And we became good friends after that, but he got me started on it. I strengthened all the muscles around my back and leg and stuff like that. And then about 6 months after I started CrossFit, I was 100% pain free. So
wow. And you had never done CrossFit before that?
No, I thought it was stupid.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, I played golf and in the college when I was in college in the weight room, there was a specific way you worked out, and it was the gym bro stuff, like 3 sets of 5 at whatever, and then go run 3 miles type stuff.
You'll go back to that when you're old. Trust me. I started doing. I'm 50. I've started going back to the gym bro stuff.
I like there's that functional bodybuilding.
Oh yeah, like Marcus Philly's doing.
Yeah. I've seen several people go to kind of that style, and they say that they like that pretty well.
Yeah, I've slowed way down, but like I hadn't done bench press. I mean, like probably in years, and I've started doing some of that. I started fooling around with skull crushers. I don't do curls so much, but instead of doing cleans, like hang cleans, I'll sort of cheat it a little bit and bring it up like this, and then slow it down on the way down. And I I still try to get some intensity in a couple of days a week, but nothing, nothing like just like, okay, I have 15 minutes. I'm going to run out into the garage and do Fran.
So you started in CrossFit. You started at you were part of the media team, right?
Yeah. Early, like before they, I was how old did you say you are? 36?
Yeah.
So I started with CrossFit when I was 34, and that was in 2006, the end of 2006. And they hardly had they barely had pictures on the website, let alone videos. Yes, and then they did have a couple videos, and that's when I emailed Greg and Lauren.
So the guy that I just hired to be the president of the Tactical Games, it's fascinating to me. The businesses that I've owned before, like media and stuff like that, wasn't important. It's just getting the job done on time and building a reputation for yourself through that. But media is, at first I didn't like it, but I guess my eyes have been open to, 6 months ago, I could look at 2 pictures and I didn't know the difference between the 2 pictures. Now you look at 2 pictures and I'm like, this is a total hack job, and this guy's a professional.
Yep.
So, I mean, the value of it is unbelievable. I had no idea, but it's fascinating to me. And the depth of, I thought it was just a camera. You point it and take pictures and stuff. The depth of all that stuff it's another world to be in. It's crazy.
Do you have any media on those events, those like kind of the women's events where you introduce sort of people to the tactical games? Do you have media around that?
So we try to keep it as low stress as possible. But we do. There is Shooting Gallery. It's a TV show with Michael Bain. He came out and he did a whole TV show on it. I think it airs on Outdoor Channel. But anyway, they did a whole episode on it, and Tess, they interviewed Tess and a bunch of the people that were there, which is funny enough. The first shooting match I ever entered, me and Tess were on the same squad, and then Heather Miller was at that TGU as well, and she was actually on that squad too.
Is she one of your good shooters also, Heather Miller?
No, she's I know her pretty well from shooting just over the last 10 years or so, but she works for Staccato, a gun company.
Okay, you're wearing their hat.
Yeah, I've shot for them for a while, so.
Because I think that would be interesting. It'd be interesting to hear from those people. You know how we used to do the media in the beginning, when I first started working at CrossFit. Basically, what I would do is, it was super duper effective. I would just go to a level 1. Did you take your level 1?
Yep, I took the online level 1.
Oh, you did?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, why'd you do that? Just because it was during the pandemic?
Yeah, it was pretty good.
I've heard it's good.
I could see how people would think that it's not as legitimate or whatever, but it was a good class. I learned a lot.
Yeah, I just the part that's cool about going in person is you really get, and you already went to an affiliate, but you really get soaked in the culture. Like, you basically show up there with like 40 to 60 people you've never met before, and everyone's kind of standoffish and like to themselves. And by the end, you're cheering everyone on.
Yeah.
And it's just nuts. In those 2 days, these people become kind of your best friends, and you can't believe how much energy the level 1 instructors have. They have so much energy.
Yeah.
But one of the things we would do is we would show up to level 1, and we would just walk up to I would walk up to the participants with my camera, and I would introduce myself, and then slowly throughout the weekend, I would talk to them. So why did you come here? Do you have kids? What does your family think about you being here? And then I would shoot what we call B-roll. Are you familiar with that term?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then I would cut it together with their interview, and we used to make tons of those. And that caused, I think that really was one of the I mean, besides the methodology is amazing, I think that was one of the core components that caused it to explode. And I would be curious to hear, like, see a 5-minute video on one of these women's take on this 2-day course, that she takes, and that the fact that it's free, and what she thinks. It's cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely something we could do, or we should do for sure. Do that.
So when you got in this accident, and they immediately put you on what, like Vicodin and Oxycontin and that kind of stuff? They just gave you tons of that?
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but I did not like the way it made me think and feel. So I wasn't about that. And they kept giving it to me, and so I stopped taking it because I'd rather just be in like pain but be able to work and stuff.
Those mix nice with beer. I used to like taking a Vicodin and drinking a beer. 2 Vicodin and a beer. The good old days.
That sounds like something you can get addicted to.
And a good sporting event on TV and a nice couch. Oh.
Yeah, I try to stay away from stuff like that. But it's like I think Fraser talks about it a lot. Successful people have addiction personalities, and luckily, my dad was telling me when he was, his addiction has always been business, and that's what he focused on. That's why I work so hard all the time and stuff like that. And I think I don't have really an addictive personality, but I 100% buy into things, and I would not want to focus that energy on something that is going to be a detriment to myself.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah. You don't want to like be like if you did heroin in 2 months, you'd have your own opium field and poppies.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm not just going to do the drugs. I'm going to, yeah, I know.
I have
Totally.
like a fleet of planes flying it all over the country. Yeah.
Yeah. I totally get it. Hey, that being said, is any part of you interested in making guns or making bullets or getting in? And I don't just mean with those are bullet makers behind you, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I mean actually like starting your own business where you actually sell bullets or sell guns. Is that something that interests you?
I had an ammunition company for a little while.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. My dad actually, he started it and I took it over and then I sold it about the same time that I sold everything else. So
What do you do? So when you have these companies and you sell them, what is the plan? Is it to make sure you take that money and make it last as long as you can, or make it last forever, or like so? I worked at CrossFit for 15 years, and then I was fired. And then as soon as you're fired, you see this runway appear in front of you, right?
yeah.
And at the end of the runway is a cliff that falls off into the abyss, and you and your family are now just like, oh fuck, what am I going to do? And that runway is made of dollar bills, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you have your business, by the way, I really respect the fact about this. I would like to talk about that again. The stress you felt having all those employees, because Greg used to talk about that all the time. That was the greatest thing about selling CrossFit. He could finally sleep at night without thinking about the employees. But you have this runway, and then if you don't make money, you can't lay out more runway. That's like the timeline, the horizon line. When you sold this company, are you like, okay, have you ever seen that skit? It's from that movie Matt Damon's in, where it's like, if you have $3 million, you have fuck you money.
Yeah.
You should need. So was it kind of like that? You're like, okay, I'm going to sell these 3 businesses. I need to have this amount of money. I need to have this much in Bitcoin, this much in the stocks, this much from a rent that I'm getting from a house. And then my wife, as long as my wife keeps her job, I can keep laying out more runway. Like, is that the process of? And then you're like, oh fuck, I'm going to buy the tactical games. That ruins everything. I just shortened my runway in half.
No, it only took about 5 months to turn the tactical games around and get it profitable and to where it's very
sustaining. Okay.
I mean, it's more than sustaining. It's very successful and
awesome. God, that's awesome.
I'm never worried about it, to be honest with you. I know that I'm always going to do something and figure something out. So I just keep on keeping on.
Is that faith?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Are you religious, man?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. So I don't talk about it. I'm not like going to go knock on your front door and ask you if you know Jesus, but yeah, absolutely. 100%.
How did that happen?
I mean, I wouldn't say that I didn't have a choice, but like I definitely had a choice. My dad was an amazing guy and I always wanted to be like him. So he was a deacon in the church and everything that he did was guided by the values from church. And I liked that about him and I wanted to be like that. So,
it's so nice to hear this story because the typical story is your dad was a priest or a deacon or whatever, and at some point you rebel and you're like, fuck this.
And my dad did a really good job of he's always been a very good man, and but he also did a really good job of making sure that I knew that he wasn't always perfect. And he would give me examples of, earlier in his life when he messed something up and the ramifications of that and why he wished he wouldn't have done it when he saw me going down a road that was going to, land me in the same spot that he was. So he never pretended to be perfect in front of me. And I try to do the same thing with my kids. So.
Yeah, me too.
But life's a lot easier when you just, make good decisions, be a good person. So,
when you say your dad had good or not good values, you liked his values. Can you give me an example of like what a value is?
I mean, he was a CPA, and people trusted him with their finances. And one of the things that he did as a CPA is, an older lady that had a bunch of wealth would come to him, and it was his job to help separate out the estate and make sure that everybody was getting equal shares and stuff. And there were several times in business where he would come home and talk about it, and he talked about business a lot at home, and he would say, these are the decisions that I have to make, and this decision would bring me a lot of money, but it's an unethical decision and I can't do it. And so I think hearing those things, like, and I mean, perfect example is Hepner, right? So Hepner's doing the tactical games now, and
great dude, by the way. Have you had a chance to hang out with him?
Yes, I have, and that's like,
he's dope.
Whenever you start figuring out you really figure out who somebody is when you're exposed to the finances side of them, right? And Hepner's doing some training on our platform and stuff like that. And there's other things that financially we've had, if sponsors come in and stuff. My main thing is helping the athletes, right? And the way he's conducted himself and that, like, he has good values. Money doesn't guide his decisions, and he's an amazing guy. Like, I don't know how well you know him, but
I couldn't stand him, and then I interviewed him on my podcast. I kind of like to do that, like face the people that I have like judgments about. And I was swooning in his presence. I thought he was a gentleman and a loving, kind soul. I loved him.
Yeah, he's one of those people that when you're around him, I wouldn't say like forces you to be a better person. He makes you want to be a better person.
Right. I could totally see that. And how about that girl who gets to train with him, Olivia Kerstetter? Dude, what a great team they are, huh?
Yes. And how strong she is. So that's a lot of people.
She's crazy.
Dude, a lot of people in the tackle games have been at one point or another, we just, the sport advances, right? So like things get heavier, the runs get longer, and we started hitting weights that people were saying like, hey guys, this is unrealistic weights and stuff like that. It's like, there's this 14-year-old girl in Kansas
right,
did a 205 snatch. So like, if lifting 150 pounds over your head is too heavy, you're admitting that a 14-year-old girl lifting 205 pounds over her head,
and you have different divisions. Really, what those people are trying to come to terms with is like, hey, you're not, you need to stay in your division.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I think that people tie their success in the tactical games with how well they do their profession. If they're coming from the military and law enforcement, and they have to realize it's called the tactical games because that's what Tim Burke named it, right? And Tim Burke has a resume that he can name anything that he wants to tactical because, I mean, you've known him from the past. And but it's a shooting and fitness competition, and we test those two things, shooting and fitness. And when you show up and like somebody like Hepner is there who has focused a ton of energy over the last year and a half into becoming the best shooter he possibly can, and he's an athlete, just straight athlete.
Right. And totally. Not just a CrossFitter, but can do it all.
Right. Athletes are frustrating people because you can work for years to be good at something. And like Corinna, I forgot what her last name is. She came kind of from the OCR world. She came and just naturally started picking stuff up that had taken other people years to do it. And that's what I think there's some frustration on that front from, some of the people that do those kind of things for a living. Is you have to realize some of these people are professional shooters coming in that have a little bit of fitness, but they're a professional shooter. They're a world-class shooter. And then you have a world-class athletes coming in. That guy is going to learn how to shoot so fast. And the body awareness that CrossFitters have, stuff like that. It just promotes, you can't stop an athlete from doing athlete stuff.
Right.
It's going to happen, and you just have to accept it.
Right.
So, but it's definitely, it's cool to see Hepner progress. We were blessed that he was the first guy that really stepped over. There had been a couple of other CrossFitters come over. I don't think there were like 9 foot 9 something. Anyway, he runs one of the sanctionals, or one of the ones with the swords when they won. Who is Anyway, I can't remember the name.
I can't remember. I
12,
can't remember.
12 laborers, 9 laborers. CrossFit.
Oh, that guy. Oh,
yeah.
There's a guy. I don't know.
Forgot what his name is, but anyway, he came and he competed, and but Jacob was really the first one, and then Zach Forrest competed 2 or 3 times before that. But
how did Zach do?
He did well. That's actually how I got to know him. Is we competed and it was probably my 4th or 5th event that we competed against each other, and he did well, but it's a different kind of fitness also. But he's a good athlete too. Like, you're not going to stop him from doing well. And but yeah, we're definitely blessed that Hepner was one of the first ones to come over, and he's a great guy. He's helped us further the sport as well. So
can anyone just show up to the world championships and compete? Is it like the CrossFit Games in the early days? No,
you have to qualify.
Okay.
Regular season, like, I guess we started naming them regionals a little while ago. But you have to come to one of the regular events throughout the year and qualify for the championship, because the championship increases in difficulty and it's an extra day. So It wouldn't really be like some of the stuff we do is just physically would be dangerous to somebody who hasn't shown that they are competent athletes. So
are these the regionals?
Yeah. The national championship, bottom right of the screen, is the championship.
Okay. So how much money does it cost to have on the lowest end to have all the gear to participate?
I aside from the firearms, the belt that I use costs $14. The pouches are probably like $10 each, and there's 5 of them. I would say like $250 in gear.
And then you have 2 guns, right? You have a rifle and a pistol.
Yeah, and to get a good rifle is about $1,000, $900 to $1,000, and then a pistol is probably $700 right in there.
I was I can't remember what event it was, but my friend Dave Castro, he was doing a partner event with someone somewhere. I won't say it's in Florida or on the East Coast somewhere. I think it was in the United States. And they were doing the partner event, and his friend on day 1, and he was super excited. He'd been training. I remember David had been training for it, and he was so excited. Pardon me?
Mammoth Sniper Challenge.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
And this is a couple years ago, and then the guy he was with dropped his gun.
Yep.
And that was an automatic disqual. And I remember Dave like calling me like I could tell something like didn't sit well with him, you know? And I think they went back like 2 years later, and he said he would never compete with this guy again. And he was just fucking pissed. Right. Of course he went back with the exact same guy, and they did it again. And I think they did well. But there's shit like that, right? Like that's part of the whole. Even when he told me the story, I'm like, what's the big deal? But is there weird stuff like that those of us who don't do guns all over the place, like safety shit like that? That's a safety thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, because the consequences are literally deadly.
Dropping your gun, like it discharges and shoots someone.
Yeah, and we just changed one of the rules. So like in a lot of the pictures and videos, you see people running around and like their rifles are swinging everywhere and stuff. But we go through a very strict clearing procedure. So the athlete that just finished the event that you're doing is standing behind you. And then there's a judge standing behind you. So there's yourself and 2 other people that are confirming that the gun is clear and that you have cleared the gun and it's empty before you can turn around. That still wasn't like sitting super well with me. So we just implemented a new rule where you leave the rifle at the firing line and you don't put it back on your sling and go running around and stuff.
But does that make it too sanitized then? Is that like at the L1, how they stopped doing the Fran? Like you're supposed to run.
We're still going to have probably 2 events that you keep your gun on you. But it's going to be the single person launch. So like, on CrossFit, everybody's in lanes next to each other going back and forth. We also do single person launch events because the shooting is more difficult and you can only have 1 person at a time shooting the course.
Okay.
So they will sling their guns because it's just 1 person that you can.
Okay.
and there's not 5 people going at the same time.
So
But
there's no one being like, oh man, Jared's really pussified this event, like taking it. Okay.
I thought we were running the risk of doing that. And then when we announced it, 99% of the people were like, thank God. You know, it's just, it's never a good feeling. Even when I have a gun completely taken apart and the barrel is removed from the gun, right? So it's just a barrel without the rest of the gun attached to it. Cleaning just a barrel that's not attached to a gun is still an unsettling feeling, like looking down the barrel, right? And then you can imagine we're attracting all kinds of people that may have just learned how to shoot like 2 months ago. And you start playing like the law of averages and probability and stuff like that. And that just wasn't okay with me anymore. You know, like, and to secure the future of the sport, we had to make a change. So
yeah, even one accident's unacceptable.
Yeah. And I mean, because the thing is when I took over as the owner, I made a commitment to the people that are still around in the sport that, like, this is going to be even CrossFit, right? Like, you have to be one of the main CrossFitters to make a living in the sport. And that it wasn't okay with me that, like, people were losing money and doing really well at this sport. And so one of the first things that I did was change that and start helping the athletes work their contracts with sponsors and make it, at least, you know, for a lot of them, a net zero thing, to where it's not costing them any more money to come compete anymore. And then now I would say most of the people in the top 10 are making money doing it. And my goal is to have everybody making money. You know, everybody that's good making money. You know, if you're sitting in last place, you probably don't deserve to make very much money. But that's ultimately the goal. And I think that's a unique thing. And people get a little bit butthurt about me competing, and it's not the guys in the top 10. The guys in the top 10 100% want me to compete, because if I'm not there competing, there's an asterisk next to their name if they win. Right.
Right.
Like, you won, but it's because Froning wasn't there.
Right.
You know, like, there's always that cloud over, like, because who was it that, like, Ben Smith that won right after Froning? It's like, well, did he win because he was the best, or did he win because Froning didn't compete?
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah, it's the same. It's the same thing. Like, so no one beat Matt, and Matt left, and the same thing. Like, the women really need, like, when Tia leaves, if no one beat her, it's kind of like that movie Highlander. Do you know that movie?
Yeah.
You kill the guy and you get his power. So I mean, yeah, if the champion leaves without anyone beating them, like, there's a missed opportunity for sure.
And I made a commitment that I would stay until I got beat.
Oh, wow. No shit. Good on you. I think that's cool. People always say it's cool that people leave before they get beat. I think it's cool that you said that the other way.
But then it started, you know, the people, and it's never people that are in the top 10, but there's always people out there. And then the people that are just following the sport, it's like, oh, you know, of course he won, you know, he owns it. Of course it's like, bitch, I was winning where I owned it. And just like, but so that's kind of frustrating. So I have to make a decision on what's best for the organization, and then what's best as an athlete, and what's best for the other athletes. And, like,
I think there's some brand value to you just saying, fuck you, I'm competing. Do you know what I mean by brand value?
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of what CrossFit has lost over, like, 2 years.
Yes. There's total brand value in whether you like guns or don't like guns. The fact that Dave Castro was an operator in the Navy for 12 years, and a SEAL Team 6 guy, and makes bullets, and does shooting competitions, and, like, that's the guy. I don't care how much you like or don't like that. That's the guy, the ethos, the brand you want of the guy making the workouts. Kind of like in the documentary in 2008, Every Second Counts, someone says, well, what would they do in the Olympics? He says, fuck the Olympics. Yeah, that's the brand value. And so it's like, well, that guy's cheating. Well, then go out there and beat him. Fuck you. It's like, so what? By the way, tennis is full of cheating. I've never seen such cheating, by the way, even at the little kids level. That's another problem in sport. The cheating is just rampant and everyone knows it. But okay, go on. Sorry.
So, I mean, that's kind of but I feel like I owe it, especially, like, I don't pretend to be something I'm not. Like, Hebner, more than likely, if I compete in the championship this year, is going to beat me. And
speaking of cheaters, fucking Hebner.
And he's going to beat me. Obviously I can't keep up with his fitness, but like the shooting advantage I have on him is exiting the realm of like the difficulty that we experience in the tactical games. And while I would still be able to beat him in a shooting competition, he's getting too good at shooting to where his fitness, where I can't overcome it. Right. And, but I feel like, and I don't fault anybody for leaving a sport before they lose. Cause like, there's also other things like priorities you have in life that you want to move on to. And, but I feel like you kind of owe it to a sport to stick around until you lose so that next guy carries that torch. Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's kind of the predicament that I'm in.
Even if you had a problem with the programming, you would overcompensate and you wouldn't say anything, right? Like a month later, like you would still be like, you'd be like, hey, it's inappropriate. Like I've made my bed and I'm not even going to say shit.
Yeah. So like during the competition, during the championship last year, several people walked up to me like, hey man, they're making this call against me. I'm like, whoa, bro, no, like I can't say anything to you. Like,
yeah. If you want to talk to me about your wife cheating on you, I'm a psychology major, but this fucking gun shit, like, fuck
you. Like I have to tell them, be like, hey man, like I have to stay completely out of this. I can't, even though I know, like I have an opinion, I'll tell you my opinion in 3 months. But no, and I have opinions of the programming. Like Wednesday after the championship, I called Jake, who essentially is like the Castro of our sport, right? He's the one that programs everything. And
what's his last name?
Mazel.
Okay.
And I called Jake and I was like, hey man, so you totally fucked up like 2 events. That was cool. Let's talk about how
you said that to him.
Yeah, it was after the competition was over.
And does he say fuck you and hangs up on you? That's what Dave would do.
No. So, but we did. I mean, I'm honest with him about it. And then being a competitor also keeps you present. And it's easy. Like I didn't compete for probably 6 or 8 months because I was running the events and stuff. And it's easy to build a callus and just be like, man, these people are just complaining about this. And it's not that big of a deal. It's different when it's affecting you as a competitor. So keeping a foot in it to where you remind yourself, like as a match director, it's easy to build a callus and say, well, it's just a little deal. I don't really care about it. But as a competitor, you have it's from a whole different looking glass, right? So it helps keep perspective when you're making decisions as an owner and a match director when you're out there competing sometimes. So
I have to do this really quick. Let's see how this plays out here real quick. Sorry, I apologize for everyone listening. I'm supposed to be taking my boys to skateboarding right now, but I have one more question before I let you go. Before you let me go, let's see if my wife answers. No, she's not going to answer. She got the kids in the car waiting because when this podcast ends, I just jump in the car and I drive them over the hill to their to the skate park. It's like, oh, all right. Okay, here's the question. You ready?
Yep.
I could go to church every single day and want to be a Christian so fucking bad, but I've heard that you have to be invited. That there has to be a calling from the Lord, from Jesus, from God. And then when you've called, and not all men are called. Does this make any sense to you, what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that not only the reason you gave for sort of your foundation in your religious beliefs was you wanted to emulate your dad because of your love for him and your admiration for him, and you saw the way he carried himself on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
But have you also been called? And how did you know? What was that? How did that happen?
There were definitely just events throughout my life that led me to it. And I guess more so confirmed my belief in it. Making it through that UTV accident, I should have died 100%. There were things that happened after I woke up because I was knocked unconscious for however long I was there. I was by myself. So, so for several hours, and I was trapped underneath it. And
you came to and you were underneath that thing?
yeah.
And you're like, and were you like, oh fuck? Are you just like doing the thing, like take it and assess that like, oh fuck?
Yeah. So it had me pinned to the ground by my leg, and I couldn't get it off. And for a while, like, so blood was in my eyes. I had a gash on my head, and so like it's super hard to get blood out of your eyes, by the way. But I was trying to get the blood out of my eyes. I finally got it out of my eyes. I could see pretty well. And I was trying to figure out like how I'm gonna get my leg out before like the pain hit and the adrenaline went away. And I couldn't do it. And I was probably there for like 45 minutes struggling under this thing. And I just finally was like, well, you know,
No cell phone around? No.
there's no cell phone service out at our ranch. So I was like, well, my dad's going to leave his deer stand in about 5 hours. So when I don't get back to camp, he's going to notice I'm not there. He's going to.
How bad is the pain at this point?
It hadn't hit yet. I wasn't in pain.
Are you talking to God at that point? God, don't let me die. I have kids, shit like that.
No, I was thinking about it. That's for sure. But so I decided that, you know, I was just going to try and get as comfortable as I could before, because I was kind of coming in. I was starting to go back out of it. I was about to pass out again. And I was like, I'm going to adjust this way and see if I can kind of like get somewhat comfortable. That way, when the pain sets in, at least I'm somewhat in a comfortable situation. And I looked up, and the bar that was crushing my leg had lifted up, and I slipped my leg out from underneath it. And it,
why did it lift up?
I don't know. So that's one of the things that has confirmed it for me. Was the second my leg got out of the way, it crashed back down on the ground, and I got up and I walked to my friend that was probably a mile away, and he was asleep in his deer blind, and I threw a rock. You know, I threw a rock at it, and it hit the rock. And as soon as I saw him look at me, that's the last thing that I remember.
Oh, you surrendered. Okay,
Yeah.
Homeboy's got it from here on out.
Yep. So, but that's definitely and I think everybody has things in their life that they can't explain, and
Yes, sir.
you try to justify it as something else. Or, you know, I've told a couple of people that story, and they're like, man, you're out of it. Like, you're hallucinating, and you probably thought it was really hard, but it wasn't really hard to get it off. And when you adjusted, it went up. Like, my leg says a different story. Like, my quad separated. It hurt. So, but yeah, that's definitely what's done it for me. So it's one of those things that.
Did you ask for help before that happened?
No. I do remember thinking that I was sitting there, and I was like, there's no way, like, at least right now, that there's no way that this situation could get any worse. Like, I've hit the apex of this situation. I've hit that. And from here on out, I'm either going to pass back out, and my dad's going to wake me back up, or, you know, whatever. And then like 35 cows walked up, and I don't know if you've seen like,
this is so good.
I don't know if you've seen a cow pee before. But it's like,
yeah, this morning. That's how I feel. I've seen a donkey pee every morning. When I pee, I'm like, man, you're built like a donkey, Sevon.
You like dump this water out. Like, that's
like how fast. Okay. So
like,
and is it near you, like near your head? So even
I was laying there, and it started peeing pretty close to me, and the splash, like the splatter, you know, just like, you know, like when you're peeing in the toilet,
yes,
a little bit hits your leg. Like,
yes, always.
I was like, man, I'm sitting here. I was like, I thought it couldn't get any worse, and there it is.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, there's a lot of lessons, and I think a lot of appreciation for the little things in life. Still to this day, that I remind myself that I was laying there thinking about just wanting to read books with my son, and stuff like that. So anyway, but it's definitely good. It's definitely a good reminder. Every time I start getting a little ahead of myself, I always like think back to those things. So
here's the thing, man, that people don't get. So I'll just tell a quick story. I've told it a million times on the air, but basically my senior year, I got called by the counselor into the office. She's like, "Hey, you're not going to graduate from high school." I go, "Why?" She goes, "You don't have enough credits because you haven't gone to like 4 of your classes this year." I'm like, "Oh, fuck." And she goes, "And here's your transcript." And I'm like, fucking, like, I feel like tears starting to well up. You know what I mean? I'm a senior high school. I can't believe I'm not going to graduate. It's a week till school gets out. And she goes, "Do you want me to check your main transcript?" And I said, "Yeah, please." And she goes, "Okay, I'll go get the file." And I'm like, "Dear God, I'm sorry, I've never fucking prayed to you, but I can't remember the deal I even made with God. It was like, I'll never fuck up or be an asshole or something ever again. I promise I'll do this, this, and this. You got to get me to fucking graduate."
Yeah.
And she comes in and she opens the fucking transcript and she says to me, "Oh shit, you did every high school play from your freshman year, sophomore year, junior, senior year, and you stayed after school. So you get credits for that. You're going to fucking graduate." And the reason why I did that is my freshman year I saw there were girls doing drama. So I walked in there. I'm like, "Oh, if I could hang out with girls who are like older than me, that'd be great. That would talk to me." And, and someone would be like, "Well, then that has nothing to do with God. That has to do with the fact that, you did." It's like, no, you're fucking missing the point, man.
I think
it's like the same thing if someone said, "Well, maybe the dirt sunk and it below one side of this ATV and it wasn't got." What? Like, are you not fucking listening? Like, do you always have an excuse for everything about what to see the truth? It's fascinating to me. And I'm not a believer, but I'm like,
there's a main principle in like what you were talking about earlier that's hard for people to justify in their minds. Once they understand that I'm a Christian and, you know, largely a conservative, and, you know, I like guns. So there's a stigma that goes with all of those things. And it's to love the sinner, but hate the sin, right? So you can love the person. You can also not exactly love what they do or their lifestyle or style or whatever. And you can also not agree with it, but you can still love the person, right? So there's several.
I worked in a home with developmentally disabled adults, and that was one of the greatest things I learned. Do not address their behaviors, address them.
Yeah.
And when I realized that, like I could forgive anyone. I didn't hold it. Like, you didn't pay me back $1,000, you owe me. It's okay. That's separate from my love for you. Yeah, totally. I totally feel that in my day-to-day life.
So that's how, you know, a lot of people don't understand when, you know, there's somebody that lives a lifestyle that's contrary to, you know, what I believe. And they don't understand why I'm really good friends with them. It's like, well, I'm really good friends with them because they're a good person. Like, I don't agree with 15% of their life, but the other 85% of their life, like, they're a cool person. They're good people. Like, I want to be around them. They're a nice person.
And I love people because I want to love people. I don't love people based on the fucking love they earn from me. I'm not letting them dictate my love for them. Fuck you. I'm who I am.
Yeah.
I'm put here to love on people and give people attention.
So that's how, I mean, I know it's kind of like, it's hard for a lot of the people that I'm around to understand sometimes that, you know, there's might be somebody that's living an alternate lifestyle and I'm friends with them, and they can't put those things together. And it's because I don't care about what they're doing at their house and the decisions that they made. Like, that's between them. And, you know, what it is for me is I love them as a person. They're a good friend. So that's how.
Hey, no one wants to be addicted to alcohol. No one wants to be shooting meth. No one wants to be addicted to heroin. There's not someone out there who's like, "Oh, this is what I want."
Exactly.
Like, dude, be thankful you're you and not them.
Yeah.
That shit ain't fun.
No, definitely not.
Well, I think that we kind of built a little bit of a friendship. You and I have like a bit of a rapport.
Yeah.
Now. Yeah, I think. I'm going to drive for an hour and I'll be thinking about this. I really enjoyed speaking with you, Jared. You remind me, you're the kind of man that people have to, that there's a hazing and a learning period. And my dearest friend in the world, Dave Castro, also has that. There's a learning period to getting to know him. And, and it's been worth every second. Thanks for coming on. If there's anything I can ever do, for you, let me know. I'd love to. I'm going to search some through your list of champions. I'd like to have one of the women on and talk to one of the women.
Yeah, man. Let me know. I'll make sure you get in contact with one of them.
All right, dude. Have a great day, and I'm off to the skate park.
All right. We'll